Hello all. In this lecture we are going to learn about fiber optic sensors and IR sensors. So first we are going to learn about fiber optic sensors. I'll quickly remind you regarding the principle of operation of fiber optics. So the optical fiber is a device which works on the principle of total internal reflection, by which light signals can be transmitted from one place to another with a negligible loss of energy. So number of advantages can be listed here. So some of the obvious advantages are: the first one is immune to electromagnetic interference, near ideal in sensing capacity. That is, you can say that the sensing capacity of fiber optic cables is 100%. Okay. And the third one is small in size and hence small in weight. You can call them as weightless. And the fourth one is versatile. By this versatile I mean that they are used to measure not only physical and chemical quantities but also used in biomedical and biological research. So due to all these advantages, these fiber optic sensors, they are applied in every areas like aircraft, defense, space navigation systems, etc. So these are the advantages of these sensors. Now before moving on to the applications, let us just look at some of the basics regarding these fiber optic sensors. Okay, so the first point to be focused on is the optical beam for use in fiber optic sensors is chosen from visible range. Okay, so usually the beam or the light beam which we choose in the fiber optic sensors, we choose it from a visible range, although we can also choose from ultraviolet as well as infrared range in some chosen applications. Okay, and the second point is the material used for fiber optic or the fiber should be low loss and low dispersion type. So low dispersion type means it should not scatter the light. Okay, the third point, the optical fiber cable consists of several thousands filaments inside the cladding sheath, and a stainless sheath may be provided as an outer protective sheath. Okay, so not just one fiber cable, but it is a group of fiber cable. As you can see, several thousands of fiber cables inside a sheath, and that sheath is again provided by a protective outer coating or outer sheath. Yeah. The fourth point, the filaments or fine fibers can be bunched randomly or grouped. Okay. Yeah. So your fiber optic cable looks something like this. It has a core, cladding, buffer, jacket. Okay, and your core consists of your filaments of your fiber cables, that is several thousands fiber cables grouped together. Then cladding is for again protection purposes. Buffer and jacket are for extra outer protection purposes. Yeah. See, your fibers can be either of glass fibers or plastic fibers or polymer fibers. They can use any material for fibers depending upon its properties as well as the applications it is used for. Okay, so here the glass, here it is saying that the glass fibers have losses up to 3 dB per kilometer, while plastic fibers have much higher losses of 100 to 1250 dB per kilometer. You can observe that the losses in plastic fibers is greater than in glass fibers, but in the applications where you can compromise a little bit with accuracy, then you can go with plastic fibers because they are relatively cheap and economic compared to the glass fibers. Yeah, the second point, plastic fibers are used for short distance communication with information capability of about 6 megabits per second and better suited for low temperatures. Yes, because of the limitation or the because of the higher losses in plastic fibers, you cannot use them for long distance communication, or else your signal will be attenuated and the information will be totally polluted. So instead of that, you can use several number of plastic fibers at short distances, and it has a capability of 6 megabits per second. Okay. The third point, the transmission of rays through glass fibers along the axis is possible by the use of cladding around the core, where cladding has lower refractive index than the core. Yes, as we saw in the previous diagram, the transmission of the rays is possible through the glass fibers because the cladding has a lower refractive index than the core, and due to this property, all the light that is projected inside the fiber touches your cladding and then it undergoes total internal reflection. Okay. And the core dimensions can range anywhere between 50 to 400 micrometers. Yeah, the another important point here is it is necessary that we should make sure that the light power that is coupled into the cable is maximum. This is dependent upon the refractive index that we are calling N1, and refractive index of the core we are calling it as N1, and refractive index of the cladding, that is N2. Okay, so the numerical aperture Na is given by the following formula: Na equals to square root of N1 square minus N2 square, and we can sum it up to sine theta m. Okay, so this theta m uh, theta m is the maximum angle of reflection. Yes. Now coming to another part of the fiber optic cables, we have sources of radiations that are used for the optical beam. Okay, so these sources are usually laser diodes or light emitting diodes. Okay, and laser diodes have the range, as you can see, 0.82 micrometers, and LEDs have 30 nanometers. And these laser diodes, they emit coherent light at a wavelength of as 0.82 micrometers, and LEDs, they emit incoherent light at a bandwidth of 30 nanometers. Okay, so now what is this coherent light or incoherent light? Okay, so coherent light is a beam of photons, or it is a beam of lights that have the same frequency. Okay, whereas incoherent lights, we cannot the each of the photon will have a different frequency. And the third point, power delivered by LED is about 1 milliwatts, and it is very much smaller than that of a laser diode. Okay. Yes, so broadly, fiber optic sensors can be classified as intrinsic and extrinsic. So intrinsic, as the definition says, the quantity under measurement causes change in the optical properties of fiber itself. Okay, so here what does it mean? If we are measuring a certain quantity, and due to the external change in that particular quantity, the property of the fiber changes. So here the fiber itself is a sensing device. Okay, so whereas in extrinsic fiber optic cables or fiber optic sensors, fiber merely serves as a carrier or guide for the light from source to the sensing device. So here we can say fiber just acts as a carrier. Okay, whereas the properties of the optical beam that is projected inside the fiber cable will undergo the change in properties. Okay, yeah, that is the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic, your fiber itself acts as a sensing device, and the properties of fiber undergo changes, whereas in extrinsic, the optical beam undergoes the change in properties, whereas fiber just acts as the carrier. Yes. Coming to applications, the first type of applications which we are studying here is to measure the displacement, and that is called as displacement measurement optical sensor. I'll just zoom in here. Okay. So in the first diagram, we can see a fiber cable incorporating fibers at the center for the transmission of light to the target, and around that are the fibers for reception of the reflected light from the target. Okay, so the distance between the target and the tip of the cable here, sorry, so distance between the target and the tip of the cable, that is T. Okay, it decides the intensity of the reflected light. With this distance T between my target and the tip of the cable, it decides the intensity of the reflected light. So from here we are sending the light light into the fiber cable, and here we are receiving the light back. So the intensity of the reflected light depends upon my distance between the target and my cable. Okay, so if the target is far away, the intensity of the reflected light will be less when compared to the intensity of the reflected light when the target is nearby. So if the target is nearby, the intensity will be high, whereas if the target is far away, my intensity will be less. So this was regarding the first application. The second application is optical level sensor. So here, as the name suggests, we are measuring the level of the liquid surface. Okay, yeah, here we can see an optical dipstick with a conical tip. Okay, so this entire thing, it is the dipstick, so it has a conical end. It has a conical end in the shape of cone. Okay, and it is placed near the surface of my fluid whose level we are going to measure. Okay, so here we are monitoring the liquid level of the liquid to actuate, say, a switch. Okay, so the intensity of the beam undergoing total internal reflection will change when the tip touches the liquid surface. So here, as you can see, this is the light in and this is the light out. So this light in is undergoing a total internal reflection here. Okay, so the intensity will be measured by this particular detector. So now when this tip touches the surface of my water, the total internal reflection will change, or the intensity of the light that is received will change, because properties of the light changes, or the light behaves differently in underwater and in the air. So the intensity of the light received will change. Okay, and so by this we can detect the level of the fluid. Further, if we want a continuous measurement of level of a liquid, we can use a feedback measuring system. Okay, yeah, so this was the second application. Coming to third application, a very simple application it is. A force or strain sensor. We can use fiber optics sensors to measure force or strain. So as you can see here, it is a microband sensor used to communicate strain to the fiber by applying mechanical force. Okay, yeah, this is and this force or strain sensor, it acts as a point sensor. That is, it can sense the pressure, or it can sense the force or strain at a particular point. So if you want to sense the strain along a very wide surface, then you will be needing, or you have to place this fiber optic sensors at all the at different points along the surface. So that becomes a distributed sensors. Yes. The fourth type of application is the temperature sensor. Very easy. In the same way, we can measure temperature variations of the waves that are passing through the fiber. Okay. Yeah. Fiber optic pH sensor is another application. So before that, I'll just tell you what is a pH. Okay, why we are measuring it. pH is a figure expressing the acidity or alkalinity of a solution on a logarithmic scale, on which if the pH is 7, it is called neutral, and if the pH is less than 7, we call it as lower values are more acidic, the solution is more acidic, and the pH is greater than 7, then we call it as more alkaline. Okay, so here the emission of fluorescent dye at the end of the fiber when dipped into the solution under test is measured. So what we are doing here, we are using a fluorescent dye and we are applying it at the end of the fiber. So we are going to measure the emission properties of this fluorescent dye. Okay, so as the second point suggests, the emission characteristics change with pH and that change is detected. So if the pH is changed, the emission characteristics of the fluorescent dye also change. So we detect this change and we calibrate it against a calibrated scale of pH. Okay, so a pH sensitive indicator dye such as phenol red can be used at the end of fiber optic cables. And the reflected light at both wavelengths are processed for indication, that is calibrated against the pH. Okay, so this is one of the interesting application of fiber optics, that is it can also be used to measure the pH, which many of us were unaware of. Yes, and the last type of application is a fiber optic humidity sensor. So this is a little bit humidity we already know, but the principle of operation here is a little bit complex. Okay, so just observe the diagram. What we have here, we have a core and we have a core and we have a fiber cladding, and we are projecting a light beam inside my core. Okay, and this single fiber optic, it is made up of a hard clad silica HCD with about 600 micrometers, and at sensing point the cladding is removed for 5 centimeters. As you can see, this is my sensing point. Okay, so here what I am doing, this fiber cladding, it is been removed for about 5 centimeters. Okay, and it is replaced with cobalt chloride gelatin thin film, as it is shown here. We are removing this fiber cladding and replacing it with gelatin film, or you can say cobalt chloride gelatin film. Okay, so the light that travels through the fiber travels through this film as well. As you can see, the light in this core, it is also reaching this cobalt thin film. Okay, so the refractive index of the film, it is greater than that of the fiber, and hence the light inside the fiber, it is being reached here, it is reaching this thing. Okay, yeah. So what happens when my light touches my cobalt chloride gelatin film? This reaction, when the light will pass through that film, the cobalt chloride molecules turn pink as the water of hydration converts salt to hexahydrate. So here we are making use of a chemical reaction. So when my light touches my cobalt chloride molecules, the cobalt chloride molecules will turn pink in color based on the content of moisture. Okay, because this converts salt to hexahydrate. As the external humidity changes, moisture content of the film also changes. So when this external humidity outside of my cobalt chloride changes, the moisture content of my this film also changes. So now when the moisture content is changed, they are turned into dark pink or light pink. So the wavelength changes here. We already know when the light touches these salts turn to pink, but based on the amount of humidity, they may turn to very dark pink, or very light pink, light pink. Okay, so this pink is distinguished based on the wavelengths. So we are going to detect that wavelengths at the outside, okay, and calibrate it against my humidity. Okay, so due to as the external humidity changes, moisture content of the film changes, thus the light output from the fiber will be attenuated at that particular wavelength. So since the wavelength changes here, my light will also be attenuated. Okay, and this intensities of this collected lights are measured using a spectrum analyzer. Okay, and then when we measure this light intensities, this is plotted, or relative intensity is plotted against relative humidity. When we plot this relative intensity against relative humidity, the relationship is not linear. That you have to keep in mind. It is a non-linear relationship, and hence it is a complex system, as I told you. Okay, okay, so just to in two sentences how you can describe this fiber optic humidity sensor. I have a core and a cladding. Okay, and at certain points I am removing my fiber cladding and replacing it with cobalt chloride gelatin thin film. So since the refractive index of this thin film is greater than my core, the light can pass through my film. Okay, so when the light passes through the film, the cobalt chloride salt particles are turned to pink. So depending upon the external moisture, that is if there is a variations in moisture, this salts may turn dark or light pinks, that is change in wavelength happens, and due to change in wavelength, the light that is passing out of this fiber cable gets attenuated. So hence we are measuring the output intensities, and we are plotting relative intensity against relative humidity, and that relationship is not linear. Okay, so this is a very typical and complex application of fiber optic sensors. See, we can also use fully distributed sensor systems, okay, by developing this for monitoring stresses in structure like sub bridges, buildings, etc. Not just at a single point, but we can use this optical fiber sensors as a fully distributed sensors. Yeah, this slide just tells you regarding the working, as I already told you. Yeah, so before going to the IR radiation sensors, these fiber, I would like to tell you that these fiber optic sensors have a very long term stability and repeatability, and this property is very much desired by the industries, and hence they find extensive usage in scientific research, pollution monitoring, conditioning monitoring, etc. Okay, so yeah, coming to IR radiation sensors, uh, infrared radiation, nothing but it refers to the electromagnetic waves in the visible spectral range between red light and the longer wavelength of microwave radiation. Thus it has a wavelength between 780 nanometer to 1 micrometer, which corresponds to a frequency range from 300 gigahertz to 400 terahertz. Okay, so yeah, so this actually we have studied this regarding IR radiation sensors in the previous units. In the first unit we have studied it as in the form of bolometers. Then in the third unit, that is in active transducers, also we have studied in the portion of photoelectric transducers. So that is the similar same thing, same sensors which we had studied. So please refer to your unit number 1 as well as your unit number 3 for IR radiation sensors, uh, or in general radiation sensors. Okay, yes, thank you.